Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Big thanks to Grant Turner, who's normally with us, for getting us set up with our nice swag. Mark, he's on his way to Bout in the Ballpark, so it's just old school, you and me doing it like we used to. And big thanks to Christian Thompson over at fantasygrade.com for sending us the team rankings. He's actually running a contest for the Oklahoma State Iowa duel, like a confidence pool, real cool thing. So you guys should check that out, fantasygrade.com. It's right on the front page. You can support your team, win, all that kind of stuff. And they run a bunch of contests tied to the NCAAs next month. I think they're actually going to run a Big 10 tournament contest and a Big 12 tournament contest too. So
wow. When do you leave for Texas, David?
I leave. So we're recording this at 10 a.m. on Thursday. Yep. I leave. The Ninja comes and picks me up tomorrow at 10:30 and takes me to the airport. Okay. So I think I leave. My flight leaves around 12:30. I'm going in with the St. Louis Sports Commissioner. We're working on something big. So it should be really fun. Well, let's start with the Bout on the Ballpark since we're talking about that. Let me do a little share screen here. So here's the Bout on the Ballpark. So for people that probably everybody knows, but if you're kind of a casual fan, Iran is not coming in, passport situation. So USA Wrestling did a really nice job of putting together a bunch of matchups, sort of an all-star lineup of people that could get here. So Gilman is going to wrestle Cruz, which is that's the semifinal rematch, Mark, of when Gilman lost his senior year. Fix will wrestle the Ecuadorian, McKenna against the Tajikistan, Green versus Canada, Nolf versus Mitch Feinsilver, which we know very well, Burroughs versus Nestor Taffer, who's training up at in New York City, Zahid versus Torres, Moore versus Ramos, Snyder versus Baranowski, and Gwiz against Merrill. So a couple things there. I think because Iran wasn't coming in and it's senior night in Minnesota, Gwiz is going instead of Gable. The U.S. women are still set to go against the Mongolians. There were whispers on the internet that might not happen, but as far as we know, everything is on. And then they changed Hancock's match to wrestle the Egyptian versus the Iranian. So we are on USA Wrestling, but shout out to Rich Bender, Gary Abbott, that whole crew for really adjusting on the fly and keeping these matchups going.
And I know this isn't easy to do, David, because you do a lot of events and you have to do things last minute. It's tough to find matchups and get everything all set. So kudos to them for being able to get it all done.
You know, I was going to say that, but in a much more self-deprecating way. Like, I run events and they are a much smaller scale. You know, I mean, we're proud of what we do. We're growing, but I'd be the first to say.
But it doesn't mean you don't put just as much time into it, David. You probably do.
Right. But I mean, but I am certainly somebody that can empathize with cancellations. And I thought of something this morning that I think applies to this. Like, and I think it's a good moment of self-reflection for me. This was the first year where we got every pairing we wanted. And I think instead of celebrating that, I need to look at that and say, that means I need to aim higher. Like, I think you're only succeeding if you're failing from time to time.
Yep.
You know, that if you're, you know, like these, like, you know, we watch Penn State, Iowa duel. Neither one of those coaches are happy because both teams lost matches and both teams lost matches they thought they could win. Instead of one side just being, well, we won or, well, we lost, there's still highs and lows within those wins and losses. It's not like football or basketball or anything else where it's a collective win or a loss. So, but a big chance to see the stars of America here. I mean, Gilman, Fix, McKenna, Green, Nolf, Burroughs, Valencia, Moore, Snyder, Gwiz, Vicky Anthony, Chikara, Helen, Kayla, Kennedy, Vicky. Interesting how a lot of the women, you know them by their first name, which is pretty cool. It's good that they're sort of in the lexicon there. Another sign that the women's wrestling is really growing. I'm not going to even try to pronounce any of these Mongolian names. I haven't had to do that since 2019 on the air. So I will just say that, hopefully all those matches come through. So, and I assume you'll be watching.
Yeah. If I'm
Yeah.
not working,
Yeah.
be able to watch it anyway. It's on Flow. So
Yeah.
the nice thing about Flow, you can go back and watch things after they've already happened. So that's nice.
God bless the archives, right?
Yep.
So I will be there. I'm excited. And should be some great wrestling. So let's start out with something that was difficult first. Then we'll come back to some good news. The Austin Gomez situation at Carver Hawkeye Arena. For people that don't know, Gomez beat Turk. A lot of booing. Gomez does this quiet, which I think if you're super old school, you're bothered by that. If not, it's like I quieted down 15,000 people. And then afterwards, he was called some racial epithets, and his family was called that, including his teenage sister. And Tom Brands and the Iowa coaching staff have reacted. They've said this is important. They're going to figure out who did it. I'll let you go first because you're an Iowa guy.
Yeah, I think they'll ban the person or people that were involved in it. I don't think they'll ever get back in to watch another wrestling meet. And I think that's the way it should be. There's certain things that I don't like about, I love when they gave Gable a standing ovation last time he was there. And there's not a lot of love there because I think 3 years ago, he smacked the heavyweight from Iowa on the side of the head, and Gable got a little upset, Dan Gable. That's not what this sport's about. He's got to grow up, things like that. And then they did a photo shoot together. He has grown up a lot. He's changed. He's great for the wrestling community. He really is. He's phenomenal. What happened to Gomez should never happen to anybody. But David, we were there, and when Penn State came out, you heard boos. And I don't understand that. This is the top-ranked team in the country. And I know people don't love Penn State, but you got to respect what they do. And you got to respect the coaching staff that they put together and the quality of the kids that they have. So that part I don't like. I don't think it's necessary. You can cheer for your team, but to boo somebody that, puts all the time into this, and people that are there know how much time these people put in. I just don't think it's right. And I don't think it's right what happened to Gomez. Whether you like the kid or not, I didn't think his antics at the end of the match doing this was appropriate either. But I mean, to, use a racial slur to, is just uncalled for. And I hope the person never gets back in there again, because there's some great duels there and it's a fun place to be. So.
Yeah, I think I have a little different take on it. First of all, I understand why people boo. If nothing else, I think they see it as a way to support their home team, right? Like, we were there at Carver Hawkeye, they boo Penn State and then they go even louder in the cheers for Iowa. And I think they're trying to be the 11th man, the 12th man of football, that kind of thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I also don't think there's really anything wrong with booing. Like, that I think that kind of comes with your right to buy a ticket. You can make some noise either way. I mean, and I'm not a booer or a cheerer. Like I'm sort of the worst kind of fan because I'm just sitting there watching and like trying to take it in. Like I was on the floor with Keck and he was rooting for a couple. I'm like, Jason, you can't root. This is USA. We're here. Like we're Switzerland. My personality is more towards Switzerland. Like when I announce, I do play-by-play. Like I'm going to stay neutral, even if there's kids that have wrestled in my event, even if there's families that I know. As somebody who has experienced racial names, I think it hits differently with me than it hits with you, and that's
Sure.
normal. That makes sense. I thought Gomez handled it super well. Like, I think he said, hey, a lot of people think it was this one person. I know it wasn't this person. I don't want him banned. That's a super high road moment for a 22,
Sure.
give or take young man to, because it'd be easy for him to just say it was so-and-so and get him out. And you could get a rally around that. I also saw somebody post and say like, hey, if 16,000 people come in and 99% of them are good, then I'll take that any day of the week. Well, if we actually do the math, 99% of that's 160 bad people. And if you take 1/10 of that, that's 16 bad people. And so if you have 1/10 of 1% screaming racial epithets for 2 hours, I don't think anybody in their right mind would go, that's okay. Like, that's not okay.
Agreed.
I also think that when you say things like that, not you, but a person says things like that, that's just the hate and the ignorance that's in their own heart. That, like if you and me don't disagree very often, but when we do, I never think you're going to bring up my race. Like we're going to disagree about the subject. We're going to,
Well, I haven't before. So
no, but I'm saying like, what I'm saying is there's a level of intelligence that you have to not dip to that level. Like you can make fun of Gomez. Like you can say, well, you only beat our backup 3-2. Okay. Like that's a factual thing that happened. Okay. Vince Turk's not their starter. The match was 3-2. I'm not sure that's worth making fun of him about, but at least that's an accurate assessment of what happened.
Yeah.
For a person to have to go to something that A, they're born with, and B, they should never have to feel inferior or bad about. Like I grew up and there were a lot of times where when I was super young, where I didn't like my dad because I got made fun of. And it wasn't until later that I realized I should love my dad, that he shouldn't be ashamed either, that the people that are making me feel ashamed and making him feel ashamed, they're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also think that Tom Brands and those guys are in a super weird situation because they're coaching their team. They're certainly not responsible for 16,000 people, what they say and do. They are the spokespeople for that. They're the figureheads for that. Chad Beatty way better than I do. He's the Hawkeye Wrestling Club director or whatever his official title is. He would not condone that behavior.
No.
And I can tell you this, like when we were on the floor of Penn State, Iowa, somebody threw a beer can at Penn State, Iowa, and it hit me on the floor.
Was it full?
Yeah, half. Literally started spilling out. Man, I'm not. I think I don't.
Why aren't these people? Why aren't they? See,
well,
number one.
Before you go back, Mark, I'm going to give you. It doesn't matter if it was full. So I want you to I want people to know you don't really care whether it was full. They shouldn't be throwing things. Period. They shouldn't be throwing an empty beer. Well, so I'm saying whether it's full or not is kind of irrelevant. People shouldn't be throwing stuff. Period. They should not be throwing stuff. I don't think anybody was aiming at me because nobody cares. I'm not important. But that behavior's got to stop. I mean, I'm always fascinated by, we had two guys behind us just yelling like jackasses about stalling calls and everything. And then when an Iowa guy would back out, it's not consistent. And I understand people root for the Laundry, they root for their team. I just think collectively we have to be better as a society. I think banning the people that are jackasses is certainly one way to do it. I thought Brands, I think Tom and Terry Brands' intellect is dramatically underrated. I think because they're intense, I think because sometimes they seem over the top, people think they're not smart guys. I've been blessed to talk to both of them. They're very smart guys. They're very introspective, and they know a lot more about things in life than wrestling. And their approach to, we have to listen, we have to have hard conversations, then we have to listen some more. And we're on high alert and there's diligence, and I'm paraphrasing. So I think their approach is very, very on point and accurate.
But I am glad Iowa's getting to the bottom of it because they've got every bigwig at Iowa looking into this right now. So hopefully something will be done about it and we won't see it happen. And it will happen again. As long as you're going to serve beer at WrestleMeet, David, people drink and they get stupid. And we both know that. And I'm not saying that's the reason people are stupid, but it makes it a lot easier to be stupid when you've had too many to drink.
Well, I would say this
down on the floor. I mean, it's just, you don't usually see that. So
Well,
It
when we
has-
did our when we did our pre-match show, pre-game show, we had some guys that were already drunk there at 5:30, right?
Yeah.
I also think alcohol doesn't change who you are. Alcohol amplifies who you are. Like
Yep.
if you're not a racist and you start drinking, you're not going to start saying bad words.
True.
But if you think racial things, maybe when you're sober, you have the common sense to keep a lid on it, and maybe the alcohol takes the lid off. But
Yeah.
if it takes the lid off, then you were thinking that stuff somewhere deep down in your cortex, cerebral cortex, the whole time. So, big ups to Gomez on how he handled it, and big ups to Tom and Terry for handling it the way they did. So, let's talk about something the opposite of that, and that's the Ridge Lovett takedown against Bo Bartlett. So, for you, if you guys haven't seen it, you need to go see it. It's literally a clip's like 45 seconds, but basically they get in a position. Bartlett's got Lovett. Still thinking about Gomez, and it's the same weight class. I apologize. Lovett flat on his butt, like he's kind of hanging on, and Bartlett's like big back into him, and Bartlett's got his legs picked up, and then Lovett grabs on the legs, hip heist underneath, comes up and double legs him. You've coached a lot of years. My dad actually used to kind of play in these positions with us. Like he would teach us the importance of hip heist, the importance of using mutual pressure, like, two kids standing back to back kind of thing. I saw some people say it's the greatest takedown they've seen all season or whatever. Just maybe a little, as a guy that actually watches and coached a lot more matches than most of the people commentating. What'd you think of it?
I thought it was pretty cool. And somebody had said, Jordan Burroughs, you are not the double leg king of Nebraska anymore. I mean, for somebody to say that, because it was a really cool way he finished it. I think Bartlett, he just got in a position where he wanted to rush something, and you don't want to rush something against somebody like Lovett, who's got really good hips, knows positioning really well, and he reached for the head too quick, Dave. He only had one leg up in the air. The other one Lovett was sitting on.
That was his post. That was his post.
And so when he pulled that leg up and he went to the head, he was able to drop that leg and then just come right underneath of him. And it was a sweet finish, and it was fun to watch. People do need to look at it, because you can score in bad positions sometimes, and that's,
I think the obvious statement is this is why you coach kids in some situations to not give up, right? Like if you're winning by 9 there with 20 seconds left, bail. Maybe not 9 because it changes to 7. If you're winning by 11 there, bail, right? Like there's no upside versus the downside, right? If you're winning by 6 or 5, or even if you get the takedown, it's not a major. And, if you do it wrong, you could get pinned. But that's why in practice, they tell you to never give up, because you won't know the bailout positions until you put yourself there and frankly lose. Like, okay, that was too far. I stuck with it too long. So anyway, so that was a very interesting thing. So did you get a chance to rewatch the Arujau Glory match? Because if not,
I did not. You did. So why don't you tell us what you think about it?
Okay, so first of all, I was texting with Nate Jackson this morning. One of the weirdest matches I've ever seen, because both guys, I think you and I both think either one of these guys could win nationals, and certainly one of them could be in the national finals, even if you think Suriano is the best guy. So these are like 2 of the top 3 guys in the country, period. Glory's already smashed Courtney. Vito was our Olympic alternate. I think Vito won the Pan Ams. These are 2 elite dudes, okay?
Yep.
Match starts. Glory takes Arujau down like it's nothing. Arujau reverses him like 15 seconds later like it's nothing. Glory gets away like it's nothing. Glory gets another takedown like it's nothing. Arujau gets a reversal. Like it's like they're free flowing, like there's like half resistance. And then Arujau does that mat return that Minnesota used to do that they're calling illegal now, so penalty point there. So end of the first period, it's 6-4 Glory. I went back and watched the first period. I hadn't had a cocktail in like 5 days just to make sure I wasn't like somehow drinking or something. Cause I'm like, there was like so little resistance. Okay. So Glory picks down, gets away 7-4. Vito hits a sweep single, comes up in the middle, does that head club like you teach like a 5th grader and takes him down, almost puts him on his back. Glory pops up. He does the same thing 10 seconds later. And both times, like he's almost got him split. Glory gets away. So now it's 9-8. And Araujo has choice. I apologize. I don't know where the riding time was in all of this, but it was not at a minute. I don't know if it was like at 40 or 50 seconds. And I know Glory's good on top, but Araujo picks neutral, which really surprised me because if he escapes, it's 9-9. Now, the argument is, well, you need a takedown to win it either way. But the way Glory was getting out, if you pick neutral, you need 2 takedowns to win it. If you pick neutral, it can get out. Even if you get out and the other guy's got 1:10 of riding time, you get a takedown with 11 seconds left, you can win the match.
Sure.
Glory gets a takedown, Araujo gets away, and then Glory literally just runs for like the last 30 seconds. And they didn't call warning. They should have probably warned him twice, but it doesn't matter. Like he deserved to win. So there's 2 takeaways I'll say for this. 1, 3, super weird match. 2, I think even one of those guys could win that match again. And then 3, and you and I talked about this the other day privately. I think, and you brought this up, so credit to you. I think if Glory wins the IWAs, or you think this, you think this, and you pointed out that Glory has a very good chance of being the #1 seed because he will have beaten Araujo twice and Courtney.
Yep.
Okay. Where if we go back to a share screen now, and this is where the rankings are super helpful. So he would have beaten right now 3 and 4.
Yep.
Suriano will have beaten in some way, shape, or form if he wins the Big Tens. Hildebrand, who's 5, Barnett, who's 6, DiAugustino, who's 7, Schroeder, who's 9, McKee is 11, Ayala is 12, Heinzelman's 13. So basically, just about everyone 5 to 13.
Yep.
There's like 2 or 3 Big 12 guys in there, but they would both be undefeated. They would both be conference champions. You'd have to figure out their RPIs, and that would be interesting because maybe Glory's wrestled some bad guys, but Suriano hasn't wrestled much. And he's wrestled all Big Ten opponents. Yep. But here's the tricky thing then. So right now, like Suriano Courtney's the 1-4 and Glory Araujo's the 2-3, right?
Yep.
I actually think there's a pretty strong argument that Glory could go 1, Suriano could go 2, Courtney could go 3, and Araujo could go 4 because Courtney would only have 1 loss and he would be a conference champion, where Araujo would have 2 losses and not be a conference champion.
Yep.
So we could see the same semifinal matchups, but 1-4, 2-3 be flip-flop. Kind of crazy, right?
Yeah, it really is.
What do you think about all that?
I actually think you're probably right there, David. I think it's going to be Suriano and Courtney on the same side because there's other situations that can happen. But Courtney can win, Araujo could win, but Glory's beaten Courtney. So that's going to keep him down at the bottom with Araujo if he's the #2 seed. So I think they're going to be split up that way no matter what. I think it's going to be, which is a shame because you'd like to see him wrestle the other guys also. But yeah, I think that definitely could happen.
Well, here's what we know for sure. Courtney, unless something really wonky happens, can't be seated above Glory.
Correct.
Okay, so
he lost head-to-head with him.
And he's already lost. So assuming Suriano wins the Big Tens, he'd be undefeated. Courtney can't be above him, and Courtney can't be above Glory. So Courtney's either the 3 or the 4.
Yep.
So,
but if Araujo wins that conference, I think Araujo beating Glory, who beat Courtney, will be the #2. Glory would be 3, Courtney would stay at 4.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
if Glory wins, I think you could see Glory at number 1. I think you'd see Nick at number 2. I think you'd see Courtney at 3 and Aruja would be at 4. It's gonna be almost identical. The only difference is gonna be, David, who are you gonna get in the quarters? You're gonna get a little tougher guy in the quarters if you're number 3 or 4 compared to 1 and 2. And it's not a huge difference.
But nobody at 5 through 13 can stand any prosperity. Like, one of the things we're going to do next year is having this chart where these guys were all year. Okay. But the number 5 slot has changed like almost every week.
Yep.
So the number 5 slot will in all likelihood be the Big 10 runner up or the Big 12 champ. Because in the Big 10s, you've got Hildebrandt, Barnett, DiAgostino, Schroeder, McKee, Ayala, Heinzelman. And then in the Big 12, you've got Mastro, and then you've got Terrakina, who's having very quietly a really good year, and Lamont and Certain. And Certain actually wrestles Courtney this weekend, and Arizona State wrestles Mizzou.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that Mizzou-Oklahoma State duel. So let's go through the rankings. I don't know. There's a ton of big changes here, especially in the top. Not a lot of changes at 25. Brock Hudkins is working his way up at 33, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Kolioko is working his way up too. 41. Sebastian Rivera, I don't know what their schedule is rest year. I don't know if he's going to bump into Lee or Ironman, but I don't know that it'll matter the seeds, because I don't think he'll get the 1 seed because Nick Lee's the defending champ. But
yep.
I mean, he could get the 2 seed at the Big Tens over Ironman, and I guess it really only matters because, Dylan Duncan's the 4, Chad Redd's the 5. Big news here, though, is Keyshawn Clark lost. And we did talk about this. The other news at this weight is Dom Demas goes into the portal.
Yep.
So I had some friends down there telling me that was coming about 10 days ago. I will bet play to wings that he ends up at Ohio State.
Okay.
You want to make a pick?
Sure. Let's do it.
Who you got?
I'm not picking a school. I'm just saying he's not going to Ohio State.
You get the whole field, huh?
Yep.
I should get at least 3-1 odds on that.
What, you want 3 plates of wings? Come
You're
on.
probably going to beat me that badly anyway on the rest of our picks the rest of the year. I mean, if I get 1 school and you get 70, that feels like 3-1 is still in your favor.
I feel like it's a good bet for me. I think I got a shot.
All right. I'll take Ohio State.
For some reason, you already know what's going on, and I don't know these things. So I
I
feel
don't
like
know these things.
I think
I'm
you
just,
do.
here's why I think he goes there. He's got 1 year left. He's an Ohio kid. He can get in state. If he's been emancipated, he gets full Pell. He goes super cheap. They can give him a little bit of scholarship. He can go for 1 year. And if he goes there, it's going to be at 41 because they're not going to mess with Sasso. And sometimes maybe that's what you need is like, we've all coached where a guy wants to move up. And when the guy can beat the guy above him, it's a lot more difficult than when he can't. So, all right, we need to keep flying because there's a bunch of stuff we need to get to here. 49, not a lot has changed. Gomez is up to 5 now. Lovett is up to 6. The big, that Big Ten semi is going to be really important. That ACC final is going to be really important for seeding too, with Wilson and Antonian, assuming these results kind of hold. So there's Parco is going to wrestle Josh Edmond this weekend in a match that the over under in that match should probably be about 21 points. So that'll be fun. 57, not a lot of changes again. Peyton Robb got beat by Lewan, and then you got this whole thing where they're next to each other. And it really, I don't know why a couple people have him ranked. I mean, I guess maybe it could be that it's a body of work thing that gets close. And you look at Caleb Young and Sheets, that's number 13 and number 14. Huge match for the duel, which we'll talk about. Yep. 65. So we talked about Anthony Valencia's path, and he's had to wrestle Griffith and Wick, and then this weekend he's going to wrestle O'Toole. So really a bigger match for O'Toole, because if he were to lose this match, he's going to be handcuffed to Valencia on the downside, which would really kill him in seeding. And Whitlake has lost to Griffith, so it really make the Big 12 tournament not as important. I talked to Reeder. I'm gonna look this up, make sure I pronounce this kid's name right, because I literally asked him. Hamity, not Hamidi.
Okay.
So it's Hamity. So Hamity had a good match with Marinelli, lost 7-5, won one of the scrambles where he was able to sort of reshoot. Marinelli did what you kind of thought, Mark, kind of big boyed him a little bit, really strong. But Hamity's somebody to watch for. And again, that's an interesting match because right now it looks like they're the Big Ten semifinal because Karchla beat Marinelli. Karchla against Hamity would be an interesting match, though I don't know if they duel this year or not.
I guess one thing I noticed, David, and I don't know if it's just because they're wrestling Iowa, or it's the way Iowa wrestles against them. I've watched Gomez all year long wrestle, and how superior he is on his feet and the things that he can do, going upper body and then shooting, then coming back upper body and getting people off. And he didn't do that in Iowa. Same thing with the Wisconsin kid against Marinelli. He's been all over people, getting in positions one after another. Chain wrestling is what, we call it. And he wasn't able to get to a leg. And so it's just a style thing that I think they go out there and they're getting clubbed in the head, and it's taking them out of what they've, normally like to do. And it makes it tough. And I think he's going to learn from that. I think he's going to figure some things out, but I think he's still a little bit of ways. I think he's a year from being really, really good. I really do.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe you just got to feel it the first time at Carver, and the Big Tens are Nebraska. Yep. And maybe on a neutral mat, neutral location, it's a totally different deal. It's not just the crowd. One team has to travel, the other team's sleeping in their own bed. It's senior night. These guys are super jacked. So, I think there's a lot of variables to go into that. 74, Logan Massa beats Mikey Labs. I think that just kind of determines who they're going to wrestle in the semis of the Big Tens. Like now Massa gets Kemmer and Mikey Labs gets Starachi, and then Labs would have to beat Ethan Smith in the quarter. So that's not a great draw by being there. Plott loses to Sean Harmon, which was a big factor in that duel. So Peyton Mako and Sean Harmon are both collectively ranked like right around 13. Harmon, we looked it up, had some really sort of mysterious losses at the beginning of the year, but has beaten some really good guys since then. The Big 12 is going to be really interesting at that weight. Not super elite talent, but like, Plott's there, DeVos is there. Missouri's going to have one of those guys there, and Hayden Hastings. They're all in like the top 15. So good weight. 84. Again, not a lot of change at the top. Poznansky loses to Rocky Jordan, which is kind of a goofy loss. Venz had Miles Amin dead to rights twice in that match. And Miles Amin just so good, so talented, was like some toe overs and things like that. And so, he doesn't drop, but, it kind of shows maybe he's in that mix. He's sort of tied with Gear there, at 11. I guess Gear is technically T10, not 11. And that's another match. If you look there, like Gear and Abasad are, 2 lines apart, not very far. So
I'll tell you right now, watch out for Coleman from Iowa State. He's looking really, really good right now.
It's a great point. Marcus Coleman has had a very, very quiet, good year. We have not talked about him. Border brawler, so proud of that. And has not, and they wrestle UNI this weekend.
Yep. And so they wrestle Missouri this weekend, don't they? I think I think Missouri's
wrestling Arizona State.
They got 2 good duels this weekend.
All right, we can look up the schedule here in a second. Actually, we can look at that. So, Iowa State is at Northern Iowa on Friday. And I don't think they wrestle anybody else this weekend.
I thought they had another match. Nothing Saturday?
I'm looking.
Okay. Forget
it. Missouri's at Arizona State. So, okay. 97. That, Ferrari's still in the rankings and should be, but I talked to a source down there. It really took a lot of the wind out of the sails down there. His injury, and if Oklahoma State loses to Iowa, they'll have lost 4 out of their last 5 duels. I don't know the last time Oklahoma State lost 4 duels in a season is.
Sure.
So Duckworth would know. So and then Elam against Norfleet this weekend, number 6 against number 10. That's a good matchup because Norfleet is favored to win the Pac-12. If he gets a head-to-head over Elam and Elam were to win or make the finals of the Big 12s, which is to say a lot because you have to get past Ferrari and Buchanan. But, these wins become handcuffs. Like if I beat you, then we're riding like this or vice versa.
Yep.
285, not a ton of changes. So the team rankings, so Penn State bumps up more with Hildebrandt going up. Feels like Iowa's on their same second tier. And it feels like with Misa coming back to the pack, with Ragusin barely ranked in the top 8, with a couple of those things, Michigan is closer to Arizona State than Arizona State is to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State had guys like Mastro fell, Plott fell out of the top 8. Gearsno was in the top 8 at one point this year. He's not. Whitlake is at the bottom of the top 8. Like they got a bunch of guys that are going to be in the blood round. They're not going to be in the semis. They might be in the quarters, and then they're going to be in the blood round, and they can win all those matches or lose all those matches. But right now they've got, assuming a healthy Ferrari, they have 2 pretty surefire finalists in 33 and 97.
I agree.
And then a team we haven't talked about all year, Mark, is Ohio State.
Yeah. What do you say? They're really good at 49, obviously, but they're pretty good at 25. Obviously 65, they're really good. 74, they're really good. 84, they're good. And 97, it's hit and miss. You're not sure what you're going to get, but yeah, they got a nice team.
And then heavyweight.
Really good guys. Heavyweight.
They have a returning AA.
I know, but I'm
just saying, returning AA.
I'm not sold. That dude, buy or sell, I think I would sell. Okay. He can wrestle some good kids, but then when he gets up with the guy that's in the top 4 or 5, he's getting beat by 8 or 9 points. And that's, you got to close the gap there, David, and he's not doing that. That's what kind of, I won't worry about. Oh, how are we doing on picks?
All right, so let's go through this. I won 25. That's not fair because Mastro didn't wrestle. So if you were picking, you would have picked Certain over the Oklahoma State backup. So that's a push. Fix did get a tech, so I'm borderline ahead of you there. Hart didn't wrestle, so we're all wrong about that. I picked G over Edmond, and so I'm beating you by sort of 1.5. JQ lost the sheet, so now it's a half. O'Toole didn't win a major, so I'm up 2 halves. We were all wrong at 74. I was wrong at 84, so it's kind of a push. At 97, we were even, so we actually pushed. Nobody won.
Okay.
So let's see what else we got to talk about here. Steve O'Poulin is in the portal. That was big recruit coming out. He's leaving NC State. Let's see. We'll go through the upsets real quick, and then let's make picks for Iowa, Oklahoma State.
All right.
So here's, okay. Glory beats Arujau, right? Schroeder beat McKee. Terrakina beat Cardinal. So those are kind of the big ones. Heilman beats Mickey Philippi. That's big. Gabe Tagg, the transfer, beats Madrigal. Kairini is interesting. He beat Courtney, and then Courtney beat Tremblay, and Tremblay and Arini are fighting for the starting spot. So maybe that gets Arini in the lineup, and his name is pronounced Arini, not Orion, because he's a St. Louis kid.
Okay.
Dresden Simon was winning and got pinned by the Edinburgh kid, like winning like 12-1. Cole Matthews, you've mentioned him. You're on the Cole Matthews train. He beats Keyshawn Clark. I think probably the biggest one here is the name is Blockus loses to Kanzler. I didn't even know Kanzler was a starter at Illinois, so that's fairly significant. Ed Scott loses to Keating. That's going to screw up the ACC seeding. And Connor Brady loses to Unger. That's going to screw that up. We mentioned Will Lewan beat Peyton Robb. Julian Ramirez loses. Cam Amin loses to Bubba Wilson. Wenzel loses again. National finalist. So, he's going to probably end up seeded 12th going into the NCAAs, which is not a great draw if you're that guy. Yant, after he beats Whitlake, goes and loses to Peyton Hall. Massa beating Labs isn't a big upset, 6 beating 5. Mantanona beat DeVos. Rocky Jordan beat Paz. We talked about that. Kyle Cochran loses after winning the Southern Scuffle to Malchewski, who's got some nice wins this year. Lyon beats Salazar, who beats Bronigal. Tanner Sloan beats Woodley. So
Yeah.
I don't think OU has anybody ranked in the top 8 now. Cardenas beats Luke Stout, which was big for the duel. Trumbull beats Aiello. Hoffman beats Bolsack. Serber beats Nevels. And then, we'll talk about this very briefly, and then we'll make our picks. But Serber, like Elam, tried to cradle Serber and ends up getting posted and put on his back and just like crunched him through and came through and pinned him. And that made the duel tied with 2 matches left. And then Certain got a pin, and apparently that was enough that even if Fix got a pin, the criteria would have gone to Mizzou. So, all right, hold on a second.
I'm pretty sure Ibarra's wrestling at 25, David. I don't think Ayala is. Did Grant send his picks in?
Nope.
Okay, well, then he's going to go 0-10 this week.
I'm technically going to go 0-0. So.
Nope, he
All
loses every match.
All right. All right, this is what we do when we pick evens or odds. What do you want?
Why? I thought we were just saying who we thought were going to
I know who's going first, evens or odds.
You can go first. That's fine.
I'll go Mastro Major.
I'll go Mastro decision.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'll go Fixed decision.
Agreed.
Are you going? Oh, I thought I saw
No.
one. I thought
it auto-filled.
Okay, I'm gonna say Jaden by a
Wait,
major.
Mark.
Oh, you're
I go first.
Okay.
I'm going Jaden Major.
I'm gonna go Jaden Major.
Now it's your turn.
Mirren decision.
Okay. I want this duel to be close, so I'm going to say G. And I want this duel to be close, so I'm going to say Sheets.
I'm gonna go Young.
Okay, so you got a blowout. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna say Bull decision.
Agreed. God dang it. Okay.
I'm gonna say Kemmer.
Mark, you can't
I'm
pick.
sorry, David. I just get excited. I get excited. Go ahead. Pick.
Let me
block.
quarterback this thing.
Pick
Okay.
block.
I'm going to take Kemmer by decision.
I'm gonna take Kemmer by major.
Okay.
He's gonna put him on his back, David.
All right. Go ahead. This
I'm
is a
gonna
huge match.
It is, and I think Gear is probably going to go down this weekend. I'm going to take Assad. I do this a lot with Iowa. I don't know why I do this. I'm going to take Assad by decision.
I'm taking here, so it's 5-5. I'm going to take Warner by major.
I'm going to take Warner by a decision.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm going to take Cass by a major.
I can't disagree with that.
Okay.
All right, so you've got Iowa winning 8 matches. So 8 times 3 is 24, 25, 26, 27. You got it 27-6.
That sounds about right.
You want to give me Oklahoma State 20 points?
No,
You want to give me Oklahoma State and 15 points?
no. And if their star-studded 197 pounder shows up to wrestle, then
Yeah, then all bets are off.
none of these picks count because
No. If he
No,
shows up
I'm gonna
to
tell you
wrestle,
why. Because the team wrestles different when they know he's there.
no, Mark,
They do,
no, we're not
David.
doing that. All right, then do different picks right now with if he's in the lineup. Go ahead. Who switches?
Everybody wins from Oklahoma State except for Sheets, Whitlake, Plott, Gear, Young, and Gefeller. Everybody else wins. And Serber loses too. It's about the same. No, I'm just kidding.
It's exactly the same. You changed one match. Okay, so I've got it 1, 2, 3. I've got it 5-5. I've got it 18-16.
Oh,
You and me talked about this, and we got to sort of wrap this up, but it's going to be very difficult for Oklahoma State to get to 6 wins. They probably need to win 65, which is asking a lot.
yeah, it was the last minute takedown last time they wrestled. Probably last 30-second takedown in Iowa City. So it can happen.
Just saying though, it would be a lot. So I mean, they'll have a home field advantage, literally, but not as much as they would in Gallagher. So,
Yeah.
All right. So for GT, who's not here, for Mark, who is here, and for David, who is here, we want to thank you guys for watching, listening, sharing. We'll talk to you all next week.